and your experience with us today on such an important topic. I particularly want to acknowledge the great work and efforts that you've done at the SBA to Karen Mills, and your staff does a really good job in Chicago and in Illinois when we've done, even in the suburban district that I represent, forums, which I regularly do with our area businesses. We've invited the SBA to participate. They educate people on the loan programs that are available. They direct them to the increasing number of banks that are now participating in the SBA loans. I've been advocating for a new and improved SBA since I came to Congress. I think you're really delivering against that, and I'm glad you're asking for additional resource. What was most disconcerting about your testimony was when you talked about the $90 million that's already been approved in the queue, but you're running out of funds, and so we need to continue to provide that support so those loans can continue. In your testimony, you talked about your principles for supporting job growth and economic growth, build on what works, maximize effectiveness, protect taxpayer dollars, and make targeted changes quickly. Given that, my understanding is that to build the type of infrastructure that you'd need to support the direct loan program that some are advocating for would not only take longer, in other words, to establish the necessary organization, but that it would cost 15 times more. Am I correct on that? How does that align with what we're all trying to do in getting, as you have already gotten $20 billion of loans since the stimulus out to small business? Does this align with those goals?
As you mentioned, our principles are to try to build on what works. And what's been working is the Recovery Act, 90% guarantee and the fee reductions, but there's still a gap. And that's why we've taken each piece of the gap and tried to fill it with a program that addresses what we've heard as we've gone around the country and gotten the problems from the banks. So there are still gaps out there, and we have an array of things that we want to get at. We have a pretty good track record so far in going through our 75,000 banks. We've got 1,000 of them that step back up. That's why we are saying we can get out faster using the tools we have. Our issue is not really direct lending. A borrower doesn't care where the money comes from. They care that they're not getting it right now. Mm-hmm. And so we want to really push the throttle forward on this direct access issue, which is we need to get those banks connected, those borrowers connected to the bank networks that are lending in the communities. That's why the capital helps us. That's why the increased guarantees help us. That's why the increased loan sizes help us. And if we do that, and we still have somebody who's not bankable, we want to get them into our network of counseling. We found in North Carolina, 60% of the people who we got into our small business development centers who were rejected from the banks, we could actually get them bankable by helping them with their package. They might not have done their business plan so correctly. And maybe 2 years ago, you didn't need a business plan to get a loan. Well, now you need that. So we are going to accelerate those efforts.
I have one other question for you, and then I'd like to go to Comptroller Dugan. My other question for you is that it's estimated that SBA-backed loans account for about 10% of the small business lending marketplace. How would you categorize recent changes with your plan of what overall share of lending in the small business marketplace has been in the past year and moving forward?
Well, as Chairman Frank has suggested, I'll take this opportunity to identify something that we'd like to have that we don't have today, which is more data. We actually have very little data to size the small business lending market. That said, we estimate that we used to be about 10%. We think we're a much greater share at this moment. And with these programs, as it's hard to differentiate what's demand-driven and what's supply-driven. But we estimate that with these programs, we should be able to close those gaps and be a larger share of the market.
Thank you. For Comptroller Dugan, the administration has proposed temporarily opening up the SBA 504 program to commercial mortgage refinancing, given the growing concerns over what's happening with commercial real estate market and the number of maturing loans in the books about to come due, many of which have fallen in value and may continue to fall. Is there more that we should be doing to address that?
Congressman, I do think there is more. The bankers that we talk to think that increased SBA lending limits and on the 504 program in particular would be something that would cause them to do more lending than they otherwise would. And we have gotten our bankers together to sit down with Treasury as they have tried to suggest what are real-world practical issues with the current SBA program that could be addressed. And I think that was a helpful set of discussions that I think led to some productive proposed changes.
I appreciate it. I yield back.